Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3598. Today's date is September 18, 2025. It's been almost like a night at 9:36 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Okay, question is, what if time travel was possible but only goes forward? Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, this question is a what if question. I am actually asking this question to myself so that I would understand some of the concept and things like that. What if question is a kind of like a something triggered some sort of different possibilities perspective, and when I give the answer regarding about what if question, I would not only understand the concept but as also kind of like a try to manipulate that concept regarding about the questions and stuff like that. What if question is really interesting to kind of like give the answer to, because you are actually creating that reality. So basically you are kind of like saying some sort of stuff which is feels really good. Okay, yeah. So what if question is really interesting to give the answer and stuff like that. Regarding about this question mostly based on kind of like a simply scientific point of perspective. What if time travel happened and if you go only on forward, so what will gonna happen? So first of all, let me understand the question. Let me clarify the question. What exactly is this thing, so that you would understand much better. First of all, what is actually time travel? A time travel means like that कि you are actually traveling through time. Okay. How? Okay. So if you are traveling from one place to another place, I am actually living in India and I went to New York. Okay. So I travel distance. Okay. Yeah. Like I went from one place to another place. Okay. Time travel is a kind of like a same. Okay. Yeah. Time travel means like that. Ki right now I am kind of like a somebody in 2025. Okay. Yeah. I kind of like a travel from 2025 to 2028. Okay. Yeah. This is called kind of like a simple time travel. By the way, we are also time traveling right now. Okay, like time actually go forward and things like that. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing: you are kind of like a going directly. Directly means like that very rapidly. Means like that, as a kind of like a previous example, as I told you, if I went from India to New York, like if I'm kind of like a Bombay to New York, I went from plane, and it kind of like I went to the New York within a 10 hour or 12 hour or I don't know how much time. Okay, yeah. So basically, if I kind of like started walking from Bombay to New York, it took me almost like a maybe 3 to 4 or 5 months or maybe 6, or I'm not really sure, by walking. But if I kind of like use the plane, I kind of like simply make my process but faster, and I reach New York in very less time. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you, for the if I'm kind of like a traveling through distance, if I'm kind of like using some sort of kind of like a simply devices, I would kind of like simply not only consume little less time, but I would arrive on that location, arrive on destination very easily and very quickly. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened that we're gonna do. Okay, yeah. Instead of like a right now we are actually traveling through minute by minute, second by second, stuff like that. Instead of I kind of like have a kind of like a time spaceship. Okay, I press the button, kind of like a put that 28 July 2029. Okay, press the enter, and within a second I directly went to the 4 year forward. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a somebody jump from one time to another time, that is called time travel. Now time travel is a kind of like a very different thing too. Means like that ki you like basically you can go forward and you can go backward too. Like basically in 2025 I'm actually went from 2025 to 2029, that is called forward. In 2025 to 2019, that is called backward. Okay, yeah. So this is called kind of like a simple time travel. You are traveling through time. Okay, this is the very simple understanding about the time travel, and you probably understand, you probably knew this thing because of the you I already watched so many time travel movies and stuff like that. All right, yeah. Now let me clarify from scientific point of perspective that key going forward, going kind of like a simply time travel is possible. scientifically it is proven that you can time travel. Legitly, yeah, legitly. Like Einstein, he's a scientist, by the way. Okay, like a renowned scientist. Like he actually published the general relativity theory, a kind of like a assembly theory. It kind of like a tells that key you can go time travel. Actually, you can go time travel. Like in theoretically, we can go. In practically, we don't really have that much equipment, but theoretically, we can go. How and how is this thing actually possible? Okay, so let me clarify. Let me understand what exactly is this thing. Did Einstein actually kind of like a make any kind of like a time machine or what? No, Einstein didn't really make any kind of like a time machine. Then how does kind of like Einstein kind of like a somebody like knows that we can go like a time travel? How does it possible? Okay, let me kind of like a simply understand. Okay, first of all is that now if I'm kind of like a giving the proper answer, you just have to kind of like a perspective. You have to be kind of like open a very different perspective. Now what's the different perspective? Different perspective means like that ki whatever you believe, you are actually kind of like a questioning to that belief. Okay, yeah, and that is kind of like a very difficult. Most of people are don't really kind of like a something uh, kind of like a somebody accepting such a belief that they don't know or stuff like that. Okay, example is this thing that ki let's just say time travel is a possible. Okay, yeah, now people are really curious and really kind of like a wanted to know. They already accepted that ki this might be kind of like a something true and I wanted to know that. But some people kind of like a thinks that ki no, this is not gonna possible. Then the people who already decide, then how much you try to convince them, they will not gonna understand. So first of all is that ki you have to kind of like realize what is the early decision that you already making. Okay, if you already making some sort of decision, then you might not gonna understand. So that's what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki open up the perspective, accept such a perspective that you don't really understand. If you do that, then you will probably try to know, you will kind of like curious and you will get the knowledge and stuff like that. Okay, so which person you are, you just have to understand first. Okay, are you the person who are kind of like really curious about this thing? Then listen again, listen forward or carry on, or if you not, then skip it. All right, okay, let's go to it. Now basically you are the person who are kind of like really curious about this thing. Okay, so how this actually possible? Okay, by the way, the way that I'm explaining right now, it's kind of like my thought process. Okay, yeah, my thought process means like that ki I also watch couple of YouTube videos and I'm kind of like telling you all those things. Okay, yeah, I'm not a kind of like a somebody scientific scientist or any kind of like a physicist or nothing really at all. I haven't really done any kind of like some graduation, nothing really at all. I just really interested regarding about those topics, and that's why I'm actually talking. So the information that I'm trying to tell you is probably might be right, might be wrong, because it's not kind of like somebody, yeah, it's not kind of like a things that completely right, because I am kind of like just a normal person, just kind of like a giving the opinion regarding about that stuff. All right, so let's jump right into it. So what is exactly how this thing is actually possible? How we can go? How does kind of like a Einstein kind of like a something says or stuff like that? Well, let's just understand time. Okay, yeah, we have a clock. Okay, we have a clock and a wristwatch or things or that. Okay, we have a clock. Okay, now clock always goes forward, right? And it always goes consistent. It's not going fast, it's not going slow, it's going at its kind of like a somebody normal speed. Okay, yeah, and this is what kind of like a somebody time that we feel, a kind of like a somebody very normal and things like that. It does not go speed up, it does not go fast, it does not go slow, it's just constant means going with a kind of like a somebody consistent level of speed. But is it right? No, it's not right, it's wrong. Time does not flows kind of like a somebody in state, right, or kind of like a somebody in constant speed. No, time is like a river. Okay, understand this thing. Time is a kind of like a somebody river. Sometime river kind of like a flows in a normal rate, sometime river flows very rapidly. Sometimes river flows so drastically fast that it just, okay. So time is a relative means like that it change its momentum according to the situation. Okay, so time is a relative. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that the time that you are kind of like a thinking is kind of like a very constant. It's a kind of like a somebody that it's a going really constant speed, but maybe for you is a constant speed, but for other point of person it's a very different thing. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned, you have to be kind of like open up very different perspective. Okay, if you don't really open up the perspective, then you will not gonna accept this terminology. Okay, what is terminology? People who are actually hearing this thing, most of the people are human, and most of the people are actually living on this planet, means earth. Okay, yeah. But when you try to feel this particular time interpolation, or kind of like a somebody time is kind of like a somebody river, or kind of like a somebody relative, if you wanted to feel that thing, you have to go to the space. Okay, yeah. When you go to the space, things might be very different, very different. Okay, yeah. Now let me give you the context. Okay, what exactly happened? Okay, yeah. Now it's just that he, what if I could kind of like make a some sort of spaceship? Okay, yeah, a spaceship that can go very fast. How much fast? Kind of like a simply speed of light. Now what is speed of light? A speed of light means like that the light is kind of like a simply have some sort of speed. Okay, I don't really understand that. Okay, you don't really understand. Okay, how much time required to light come from sun to earth? 8 minute 20 second, right? In your kind of like a history class book, you actually read that particular stuff, that key the light really required 8 minute 20 seconds to comes from sun to earth. Okay, so basically light is also has some sort of speed. Okay, and it kind of like a something takes time to arrive in destination. Now basically if you are thinking that there is so much light in front of me, like there is a kind of like a tube light, flashlight, lot of light, so they are kind of like going through the same speed of, they are going to the same speed. Yes, they are also going to the same speed. Then why am I not feeling that? Like basically if I turn on the switch, it just on, it just like basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, it is so fast that as a kind of like somebody human sensation is not really evolved that much, kind of like somebody understand that speed is that much faster. How much faster? Well, 3.8 10 to the power 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Okay, yeah. 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second means what? Means 3 into 90, sorry, 3, like a 3 after 90. Okay, so 90 means like that how much? Like एकक दशक शतक हजार दश हजार लक्ष दश लक्ष कोटी दश कोटी. Okay, dash koti means like that ki how much was that? Dash koti means like that, like a basically a million. Okay, yeah, million 10 million, and 10 million 100 million. Okay, so 100 million meter per second. Okay, 100 million meter per second. So 100 million meter per second means what? 100 million meter, like let's just say like a 100 million, no, 300 million, sorry, 300 million meter per second, right? So how much was it? 300 million meter. Let me do the like I'm not really good at kind of like something mathematics and stuff like that. Let me calculate. Okay, so I have a converter, I have a length. Okay, let's just kind of like somebody how much it is. It's a, I'm kind of like a focus on meter. Where is a meter? It's a mile. What the fuck is that? Meter. Foot, yard. What the fuck is that? Where is a meter? Yard, foot. Okay, a meter. Okay, So how much kind of like a small meter? 300 million. So it is too much now. Okay, so basically 3 into 10 to the power 8 म्हणजे 10 has a 1 0 plus 8, that means 9 0. That means that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. Okay, am I 9? Yeah. So 9 meter into let's just say kilometer. Where is a kilometer? Kilometer. Okay, a kilometer. So that is एकक दशक शतक हजार दश हजार लक्ष दशलक्ष. दशलक्ष means like that ki 3 million kilometer per second. 3 million kilometer per second. 3 million kilometer. How much 3 million kilometer means what? 3 million kilometer means basically how do I understand 3 million? Like basically I don't really understand in reality how do I supposed to describe 3 million. It is too much. Okay, 3 million. What is the distance between the diameter? Okay, let's just take a diameter of the earth. Okay, what is actually how much diameter? Let me calculator. Okay, so Google diameter, AMET, diameter of earth. Okay, so diameter of earth is 12,700 and 12,700, let's just say 13,000, let's just say like basically 13,000 kilometer. Okay, yeah. And how much I have almost like a 3 million. Okay, so basically what I do is that key 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so 3 after 6 0. So basically what I do, let me do the calculator. Okay, yeah, calculator. 3 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so 6 0 divided by how much? 12 7 5 6. 12 7 5 6. So basically this thing 235 revolution. So okay, so let me understand the context. Okay, yeah. So basically the speed of life or speed of light. Okay, how much the speed of light? Okay, I'm trying to kind of like explain in simple so that you would understand. Okay, yeah. So if the speed of light travel, it started kind of like something like basically it started. So within a second, it complete 336 revolution of Earth in 1 second. 300 and like probably mostly 300, like basically 235 or 200, and let's just say through 240. So 240 revolution per second. Per second म्हणत आहे, just like per second it kind of like a take 235 revolution. So it is that fast. Okay, it is really that fast, legitly that fast. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. In our universe, okay, yeah, the speed of light is a kind of like a ultimate speed. Okay, what's the ultimate speed? Means like that nothing can go faster than light. What do you mean by nothing can go faster than light? Like, yeah, like basically this is a kind of like some limit. And who said that limit, I'm not really sure, but this is kind of like some limit that we have, okay, in universe. At the moment we know that. Okay, I'm not really sure in the future might be have kind of like a things that much go faster than speed of light. Okay, yeah, but at the moment in the universe has kind of like some limit, that speed of light. Okay, yeah, nothing can go faster than speed of light. Okay, so this is called kind of like a speed of light. Okay, so let me give you the context. We actually make a kind of like a some spaceship which can go kind of like a some 90% of the speed of light. Okay, 90%, not 100%. Let's just say 90%. Okay, so when like basically what is actually happened, I kind of like make a spaceship which can go kind of like a simply 90% of speed of light. So what I do is that I kind of like basically I put the one person. Okay, basically A and B person. Now A and B person are twins. Okay, yeah. they are actually both born at the same date or same time. Okay, yeah. Let's just say A person is actually went into the spaceship, B person is actually on Earth. Okay, yeah. Now A person went into the spaceship. Now spaceship kind of like a went into the space and go kind of like a, at the 90% speed of light. Okay, yeah. It achieved 90% speed of light and then it came back. Okay, when that spaceship came back to the Earth, it will kind of like a simply that spaceship will gonna kind of like a simply arrive in a future. What do you mean by that? Okay, let me give you context. Okay, so basically a person went into the spaceship. Okay, yeah, and that spaceship is a kind of like a travel for almost like a month. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing that spaceship kind of like a achieve 90% speed and it come back, and the entire trip is actually happened in just 1 month. Just 1 month, that's it. Okay, yeah. So basically a person spend only 1 month into that spaceship, only 1 month. But in the Earth things might be very different. Okay, because in the Earth almost like a maybe 30, 40, 50, or maybe centuries happen. Centuries happen. Like the B person who is kind of like a somebody born who is twin, that person might gonna die. Like basically that A person came back from this trip. He actually come to the future, and when he came to the future he kind of like a something seen centuries pass, like legitly centuries pass. But how these things actually happen? How these things actually happen? He just spent only 1 month into that spaceship. Then how these things actually happen? Well, this is actually happened called time dilation. Now, what is actually the time dilation? Time dilation is a kind of like a concept that when you try to achieve speed of light, okay, yeah, your time goes slower, okay, as compared to other people. But how is actually happened? Well, how is actually happening? How is actually happened? I am not really sure how this actually happened. Okay, but it actually happened. It actually happened that when you kind of like a somebody try to achieve speed of light, then your kind of like a speed went kind of like a somebody slow. Okay, is it's because of kind of like a somebody time dilation. I'm not really sure how this thing happened, but it happened, and in scientifically it happened. We have proven, we have kind of like a somebody scientifically proved that time is kind of like a went slow. Okay, when the speed is actually increased. Like, do we actually have proven? Do we actually kind of like prove that thing? Yeah, we actually proved that thing. So we actually built that kind of like a spaceship. No, we didn't really build the spaceship, but like basically is this thing. Okay, I'm gonna give you kind of like something very different. Like basically, I'm gonna tell you how this thing like scientifically proved, but it is proven. It is proven that time went slow. Okay, yeah. If you okay, like basically, if you want kind of like somebody how do we scientifically prove that thing? Okay, okay. So in Earth there is a multiple kind of like a spaceships are revolve around us. Okay, yeah. Spaceship, no, satellite. Okay, artificial satellite, like like ISS, International Space Station. Then lots of kind of like a military spaceship, satellite, lot of satellites. Okay, there are multiple satellites over there. Almost like thousands of satellites are actually revolve around the sun and things like that. Okay, now what is actually happened? Okay, those satellites are kind of like a something facing very less gravity. Okay, as compared to us. Okay, um okay, so this kind of like a things now I will gonna talk later. Okay, yeah, because this kind of like a example is kind of like a rely on gravity too. Let's just understand first time dilation. Okay, so in the time dilation, that particular person came back to the Earth. He kind of like a came back after the centuries, and for his point of perspective he just spent only 1 month. But when he came back he just kind of like arrived in like very in very futuristic stuff. So when this thing actually happened, that particular person travel in the future. Okay, now this is the one way. Okay, this is the one way that you can go travel in the future. There is also another way too. Okay, yeah, like there is also another way. Yeah, there is also another way. Okay, what is that way? uh Another way is that key kind of like a simply gravity. Okay, now what's the gravity? well, you actually experience this thing. You are actually kind of like something on the planet. When you jump, you kind of like come back. Okay, this is called kind of like a gravity, right? Yeah, because of the gravity we can walk, we can run, we can, yeah. So basically gravity is one of the really essential part, okay, for the planets and stuff like that. But let me tell you one thing, gravity is when it is too much, then it gonna impact a lot. How? If you went to kind of like a something such a planet, or such a kind of like a something a star which has a high immense gravity, okay, who has that kind of like a planet, what is that, like basically let's just say neutron star. Okay, now what is actually neutron star? Well, I'm not gonna sure. Okay, like basically this thing, there are so much neutron star, or I'm not gonna talk about that neutron star, why this actually happened and stuff like that. If you wanted to know about neutron star, you just kind of like a simply just Google it and things like that. You will gonna find out what is a neutron star. Okay, yeah, neutron star is a kind of like a something a star which is die. Okay, like a basically die. Like a basically this thing, it is kind of like a it that neutron star. Like a basically our sun is also a star. Okay, our sun is also star, but each star has its own life. Okay, yeah, like basically during the life, like a during like a life means like that key of each star has its kind of like a something life of billions of years. Like basically our sun has its own life too. That means our sun, our star is also, our sun is also star, and it will gonna die too. Yeah, the sun will also gonna die too after billions of years after. Okay, yeah. So when the star will gonna die, okay, yeah, it became kind of like a two things. Three things. Okay, it became black hole, it became neutron star, or it became kind of like a something dwarf star, dwarf planet. I'm not really sure. Probably is this thing. Okay, so what exactly that? What exactly is this thing? Okay, so basically, what I'm trying to tell you, just take a kind of like an example as a sun. Okay, so basically, our sun is a very young at the moment. Okay, yeah, probably age would be almost like a 13 billion, probably 13 billion was no 13 billion is too much. 4 billion, yeah, 4 billion year. Okay, four probably, I'm not really sure regarding about how much age would be, 4 to 5 billion. Okay, yeah. So it's considered as a kind of like a only my our star sun is a very young star. Okay, now how much life expectancy of the star? The star would be kind of like a survive for at least like a maybe, I'm not really sure, maybe 10 billion, probably 10 billion year. Okay, yeah, I'm not really sure about the exact number, but somewhat kind of like a somebody 7 to 10 probably billion year. Okay, now how these things actually happen, how this is actually thing. So when the star like a basically at the young age, it kind of like a runs on nuclear fission or nuclear fusion. Okay, because of this thing, it kind of like somebody has its own fuel. Because of its fuel, it kind of like a create immense gravity, and because of its immense gravity, entire planet is actually revolve around that star. So that's why our earth and rest of the kind of like a planet is actually revolve around the sun, because the gravity of the sun is actually far much bigger than our entire planet gravity. Okay, so that's why we are actually revolve around us. That means the gravity of the sun is actually far much bigger. Okay, and this is also actually happen is because of that our star is kind of like actually much bigger than our planet. Okay, yeah, star is really much bigger, sun is also really much bigger. Okay, so let me tell you one thing, it all depends on size. Okay, yeah, it depends on size. So let me tell you one thing, when the sun has a very big size, it became like a, okay, let me tell you the kind of like a lifespan. Okay, so lifespan means like that ki what has actually happened, that sun has a kind of like a particular kind of like a size. Okay, yeah, when the kind of like a sun will kind of like arrive at such a stage where he was kind of like old and things like that, in that particular period of time he will gonna expand. Okay, he legitly gonna expand, means like his size will gonna much bigger, like literally it gonna kind of like somebody consume the entire mercury orbit na, like basically mercury will gonna consume. So basically what is actually happened, the size of our sun will gonna kind of like somebody expand, and when it expand, it kind of like somebody became red giant. Okay, right now basically is this thing, our sun is kind of like a look yellow, but our actually sun is not look yellow. Okay, like basically it's because of kind of like simply the entire our earth, we are actually looking out our sun from our earth atmosphere, and earth atmosphere contain a lot of nitrogen. So that's why we are actually seen as a sun as a kind of like a some yellow and orange and things like that. But the real color of the sun is not kind of like a some orange and things like that. If you went to the space, then probably you might gonna kind of like a somebody seen as a sun as a kind of like a entire white, completely white. Okay, yeah. And like probably you can't even see the sun directly because it just too much. Okay, like you're like your eyes gonna get blind and things like that, even if you put the coating and things like that. No, but still it's just like that key. If you went to the space and you actually see the sun, then the color of the sun is kind of like a white. Okay, probably, I'm not really sure, but kind of like expecting that you might gonna see as a sun as a kind of like a completely white. Okay, yeah. um Whatever. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki, when the sun is actually arrive at kind of like old age and things like that, that sun became kind of like expand is kind of like a territory, and it became red. Okay, it legitly became red. Okay, yeah. And when it became red, it became red giant. We call them as a kind of like a red giant. Okay, yeah. Now when that red giant happened, what exactly happened? Like there is a lot of kind of like assembly, nuclear fission, nuclear fusion actually happened. I will not going to talk about that particular stuff because I'm not really sure about this information. Okay, but it's kind of like assembly, it convert kind of like a four hydrogen atom combined create heliums and things and that, and it also create the energy and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, yeah. This is actually happen is because of the less fuel. What do you mean by fuel? So basically is this thing that ki sun that you kind of like a sun is that you actually kind of like a seeing right now is kind of like a something that ki you actually feel the heat is because of that ki sun is kind of like a burning fuel in itself. Dude, what? Like basically does like a basically our car kind of like a really required to kind of like a fuels for a run and things like that. Same thing happened with the kind of like a simply our sun too. Sun is also kind of like a burning fuel. What the fuck is that? I'm not really sure about that. Like, yeah, this is kind of like a true, by the way. Like, this is, as I mentioned, it's a kind of like a four hydrogen atom combined together create helium atom and also another kind of like a heat and things like that. So it is what? Okay, that is called nuclear fission and fusion. Yeah, okay, if you wanted to know more and stuff like that. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, when the sun is kind of like a dying, it kind of like a reduce, like basically it doesn't really have that much fuel for a kind of like a something sustain that much heat and things like that. But because of the size of the sun is too much, so basically because of its gravity, it kind of like a somebody try to expand and things like that. Okay, I'm not really sure how this thing actually happened. Still not like this red giant, how much it kind of like expand its territory. I don't know how this happened. Go to the YouTube, search about that particular stuff. You will gonna find out more about that stuff. Okay, now what exactly happened after that? There is a kind of like a simply a kind of like a assembly explosion happen after that. After the kind of like assembly sun will kind of like assembly reach at its maximum territory, like a maximum territory and it became red giant. It kind of like assembly explosion happened, and that explosion called supernova. Okay, now what is actually supernova? A supernova explosion is a kind of like assembly equivalent to trillions of nuclear bomb explode at the same time. Trillions, or like I don't know, like basically trillions, more like basically this thing. The compared to the nuclear bomb is a kind of like a some very just drop in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, legitly that like basically if I'm gonna say that he, if I kind of like a put the kind of like a put the drop into the Pacific Ocean, so that drop is a kind of like a something just a nuclear bomb that we actually have, a kind of like a maximum nuclear bomb that we have, like a TSR nuclear bomb, like a which is a kind of like a some immense power and things like that. As it's also kind of like a considered as a drop in front of the Pacific Ocean. So basically, Pacific Ocean is a kind of like a something supernova. I'm trying to kind of like give you the comparison so that you would understand regarding about how big supernova was that. Okay, so supernova is like a really massive, like a really fucking massive, just like super massive. Okay, and when this thing happened, it just like basically after that, entire planets, like basically all the planets that we have, like Earth and everything will gonna kind of like destroy because this supernova explosion thing happened, the entire kind of like a planet will gonna destroy. Okay, yeah, like basically this thing. And as also is this thing, when the kind of like assembly the sun is became the red giant now, during this process most of the kind of like assembly the planets and star will kind of like assembly destroy in this particular process. But still this explosion happened. When this explosion happened, supernova explosion happened, sun will kind of like explode with the rest of the planets, whatever the planets that they have, rest of the planets will gonna destroy and things like that. And when it kind of like a destroy, in the entire solar system there is no planet at all, and only kind of like some sun would be there. But dude, you actually mentioned that sun will be explode. Yeah, but actually sun didn't really explode, the red giant explode. Okay, yeah, the beneath that a kind of like a kind of like a just core remain of the sun. Okay, just a core. Okay, and that core became kind of like a dwarf star or neutron star or black hole. Okay, and now let me tell you one thing. There is a three choices. Okay, but three choices is kind of like somebody depends on the size of the star. Our sun is not really that much big, so probably it will not become the neutron star or it will not gonna become the black hole, because the size of our sun is very kind of like a small. So probably what will gonna happen after the explosion, our sun is kind of like a became so tiny. So tiny means like that ki kind of like a something half of our size of Earth, like a basically size of the moon. Okay, yeah, and it kind of like a rotate fast and it kind of like have immense gravity and things like that. But not that kind of like a simply gravity that kind of like a consider as a neutron star and things like that. Neutron star has a very intense gravity, and black hole is a even more intense gravity than neutron star. Okay, yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you, this is called kind of like a dying star, or this kind of like a dwarf star, probably. Like dwarf star, I'm not really sure about the name, probably, but this is what it is. I'm not like, I'm not know. If you wanted to know more, just go to the YouTube, search about this, how this actually happened. It's a really cool concept. Okay, yeah. Now you understand this is the kind of like a lifespan of the every star system, and every star actually went through this process. Okay, yeah. Now now basically is this thing. Okay, what the fuck, what is exactly my point? Okay, my point was kind of like a simply time dilation through gravitational field. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, you understand na? Like you understand the kind of like a simply the dwarf star. Okay, our sun will become the dwarf star. Okay, if the kind of like the size of the sun is much more bigger, then it will become the neutron star. And if the sun is actually much more bigger than that, it will become the kind of like a simply black hole. Okay, yeah. Now let me tell you one thing. Let's just create we found a kind of like assembly a star which is much more bigger, and after the kind of like assembly explosion, after the supernova, it became the black hole. Okay, yeah. By the way, we also have a black hole in our like basically in our galaxy. We have Milky Way galaxy, and in the center we have kind of like assembly black hole we called as a Sagittarius A. Okay, Sagittarius A black hole. Now what has actually happened that key, let's just create a spaceship that kind of like assembly go close to that particular Sagittarius, a black hole. Now what has actually happened that key, if your spaceship is kind of like a somebody take a orbit, like a basically is this thing, you don't really went into the event horizon. Now what's the event horizon? Event horizon is a kind of okay, now I have to tell you regarding about the black hole, dude. Okay, so black hole is also really cool concept. Okay, dude, it's been almost like a 38 minutes I'm talking. I'm really tired to talk right now. Okay, but still, okay, black hole is a kind of like a sucks everything. Just sucks. It just suck everything. Okay, yeah. And because of the black hole kind of like a sucks everything is because of kind of like an immense gravity that they have, that black hole. Now don't tell me how the black hole is actually happened and things and that. Again, go to the YouTube, search about how the black hole happened, and they will kind of like show you so many videos. Watch any kind of like a simple video, they will kind of like tell you everything regarding about that. I'm not gonna mention, I'm really tired to talk right now. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. If you kind of like a spaceship kind of like a went close to the black hole, don't really get into that. Like if you get into that, you can't come back, because anything can gain, like basically light can't even come back from this black hole because that kind of like immense gravity that they have. Okay, yeah. So basically you just kind of like only orbit around that particular Sagittarius A, and when you come back you actually kind of like a feel that your time is kind of like a went super slow. Okay, yeah, as compared to other. Okay, so this actually happened. So basically time is also kind of like affected by the gravity. Having more intense gravity, that means kind of like a have kind of like a very less basically your time kind of runs slow as compared to the other, and when you come back you actually realize that you are actually kind of simply arrive at or the almost like a 300 400 year after. So which is also kind of simply way to kind of going to the forward or going to the time travel in the forward. Oh boy. Okay. I just talk about this question. Okay, it's a really good thing, dude. Okay, it's um still the information that I told you right now is not kind of something exactly right or exactly wrong either. It's a kind of actually my thought process, what basically whatever the information that I have, I'm just trying to tell you. I'm not kind of somebody expert, I'm not kind of a scientist, I'm not physicist, I'm just kind of a curious person to know about that particular stuff I'm trying to tell you. Okay, yeah. If you wanted to know more about that particular stuff, go to the YouTube, search about what is actually black hole, what is actually you have world of curiosity regarding about stuff and stuff. It's gonna tell you the time dilation, it's gonna tell you the kind of a black hole, event horizon, neutron star, dwarf star, red giant, lot of just search it, Google it, YouTube it, and you will gonna find it. This is what kind of some curiosity, and because of this curiosity we are kind of somebody really love to kind of somebody explore that thing, because basically sometimes curiosity is actually kind of giving you purpose to know more, and that is what really essential factor for kind of somebody understanding for growth and things like that. So if you are that kind of a person, if you are still stick with me right now at the moment and still you are kind of a listening, I don't know who you are person, and but you have a really a high patience, okay, legitly very high patience, that you are still kind of still at the 41 minute 36 second, you are kind of still listening me right now this shit. I don't know, but you are really very good person. Okay. Okay, yeah. But if you are really excited to know about this particular stuff, go to the YouTube, search about that stuff. It's really amazing to know about that stuff. All right, I'm really tired. Okay, I wanted to end here. All right, so this is it, and thank you.